Violence erupting overnight after the grand jury in Missouri decided not to indict police officer Darren Wilson in the shooting death of Michael Brown. Smoke bombs were used, tear gas was certainly used, there was violence, there were fires that lasted all night and into right now, as well as a lot of looting. So we have to look at why the two major events occurred. One, why did the grand jury come to the conclusion that it did? And secondly, why did last night go as badly as it did? We have perspective from people who've been following this and who lived it. CNN commentator Van Jones, CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Sonny Hostin, and CNN anchor Don Lemon, my partner for a large part of the evening last night. So let's first look at what the heck happened last night. They've been preparing for months. They had a plan. They had a state of emergency. They brought in the National Guard, and then it all seemed to go south. Former Mayor Rudy Giuliani knows about managing a big city in times of crisis. Here's what he had to say.
There was a vacuum of leadership, a cooling off period for 2 days that made the riot worse. No attempt to really bring the communities together that really worked. Obviously, all that work they did since August, bringing the communities together, was completely for naught. This riot was worse than the one in August. They went from bad to worse, and no one was saying the right things. No one was talking about the fact that you can protest, you can yell, you can scream. You have every right to be very angry about this if you want to. The first minute you throw a can, the first minute you hurt a car, the first minute you break a window, you are put in handcuffs and you are taken away. And by the way, there'll be 3 times as many police here as you, so don't mess around with us.
There was clergy out here last night. They were trying to do it. They were not given the freedoms they were given the first time around. But, you know, leadership is often about being present, Don. And we just haven't seen the names and bold-faced, presences that you would expect to see in a situation like this. You think that's fair criticism?
I absolutely do. Yesterday I was very critical of Mayor Giuliani because I thought what he said on the morning shows on Sunday, it came off as racist. He said it wrong. But I think he's absolutely right. I think the mayor knows how to run a big city. I think, quite honestly, in my estimation, there's been too much political correctness trying to appease protesters. And I don't mean the people who are out there peacefully. There was nothing peaceful about last night. There were no peace. It was hard to be peaceful in that crowd. But I think trying to appease some people, I think that there needed to be a stronger hand with people who are marauding the streets and people who had the potential of setting fires. We saw what happened. Had the potential of harming people. We saw that played out. So I think the mayor was absolutely right in his comments. There has been a vacuum of leadership here, but also I think there's been it's been overly politically correct in many ways. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to come off as racist. It doesn't matter what color someone who is marauding or looting is, if they're black, white, purple, or green. If you're breaking the law and you have the potential to break the law, then he is right. You need to be arrested and you need to be held accountable.
You're shaking your head.
Well, I just saw it differently. First of all, especially when things first went bad, the vast majority of people out there were peaceful and were trying to be peaceful.
That's not true.
That's not true.
We were out there last night. That's not true.
Sir, we were out there together. You had your view. I had my view.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people out there at the very beginning were trying to be peaceful. Then you saw way down the street, you saw a bunch of knuckleheads start a bunch of nonsense. Then they started bombarding with tear gas. Most of the people who were out there for good reasons started to leave in large numbers. That boiled it down to a very small number of people. The small number of people who were left were either social bloggers and videographers or people who were out there trying to start trouble.
So the social bloggers and videographers were the people who were looting and burning down buildings? That wasn't just...
Don't do this to me.
No, I'm just asking. I'm being honest.
There were two... We were out there together. We got tear gas together, and there were two...
You don't see two together right now. I'll tell you that. All right, hold on a second. What did you... Explain the part that Don's talking about. The looting was going on by large numbers of people.
Well, listen. There were large numbers of people out there. There were grown men out there crying. There were a large number of people out there. They were not out there to cause trouble. Once you saw the troublemakers started, and we all got bombarded with tear gas, most of the people who were out there for good left in large numbers. That boiled it down. Now you're right, to a smaller group of people.
One thing that seemed really odd to me was the
timing
and the planning. I mean, we knew that the grand jury had reached the decision by probably around noon. Then we knew that an announcement about the announcement was going to be made around 5 from Governor Nixon. Why wait until 9 p.m. Eastern,
Their answer
8
is
p.m.
pretty
here?
solid. Their answer is let the schools be empty, let the businesses be closed, let there be less people on the street to be affected.
Many of the schools were already closed. We knew the National Guard had been moved in a day before. A lot of the businesses were already boarded up and closed. I think they held it too long, and I think actually it was very reckless to try to control a crowd in the dark. Who does that? So the planning from the very beginning was bizarre.
The anticipation of a ball game or an event. It just people can. What is he going to say? What are they going to say? Is he going to be indicted? Is he not going to be indicted? Why is the prosecutor speaking so long? She's right about that. But I have to say, man, I'm sorry, you're wrong. The small number of people out there may have started off as peaceful, but most of the people who were out last night. And we're not blind.
I think we can all agree that looting,
the looters and the people who were burning, and people who were yelling, and people who were running. Hang on one second, let me finish. And when people say, why aren't you reporting on the peaceful people? How do you know who's peaceful in a crowd of people who are racing towards you? How do police know whether it's water or urine or a Molotov cocktail in a bottle? When people say why are they getting upset? Why are they arresting people?
Well,
why are they fighting back for people throwing bottles?
Here's one circumstance, just to tie this one part together and move on to what happened with the grand jury. Here's what we do know. People keep likening this to Los Angeles. It was not Los Angeles, and God forbid it becomes anything like Los Angeles. There were 100 people killed there and many hundreds injured. That didn't happen last night. That goes to what your proportionality was last night. If we truly had huge numbers of people here intent on violence, we would have had it in huge numbers, and we didn't. Let's just leave that part at that. Why not?
I can't let this stand.
All right, go ahead.
This is an insult to the people who were out there last night who were trying to do a good job.
Let him finish so we can move on.
And I am going to speak now.
Go ahead.
Now listen. What was just said is an insult to the people of Ferguson who have done more than 100 trainings for nonviolence. You say there was no leadership out there. The leadership that was. Will you let me finish, Don? Don, will you let me finish?
You're attributing things to me that I didn't say.
Go ahead.
It is unfair to the people of Ferguson who put in tremendous amounts of work to try to keep a lid on things, who were out there trying. The idea that people only came out for negative reasons is not true. The other thing is the idea that people were being too PC. That is in fact not true either. You saw large numbers of police who were saying exactly what needed to be said. You have to get out of the street. You cannot. Remember, we said order after order, and as those orders came, here comes the tear gas. So there's a lot of mythology that's been being created, and it's not fair to the people who are out there trying to do a good job.
Hold on.
This has nothing to do with the fair people of Ferguson and the people who wanted peaceful protests. Of course they have the right to protest, but you cannot say the majority of people who were out there last night were peaceful protesters.
Well, he can. That's his opinion. But guys, look, let's be a little bit better than what we were dealing with last night. You guys disagree on the point. You both lived it. Let's just leave it like that for now.
I agree with you about the people of Ferguson.
All right, good. Take it. Yeah. Take agreement where you find it. Grand jury.
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani says he doesn't even blink. He says probable cause, not even close. A prosecutor can't bring a case like this. You can't even win it. He could have never won this. We've heard a lot of people say this prosecutor couldn't have won this case. Ethically, you can't even bring it to a grand jury then if you don't even think you have a shot at bringing the case in the first place.
And he did bring it to the grand jury,
right.
And so obviously he must have thought that there was enough there was enough evidence to bring before the grand jury for possible charges. And I've got to tell you, the standard for probable cause is so very low. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just a tipping of the scales. It's that a crime probably was committed.
But when you have people, let's use Van and Don. They're telling stories. They're at the same thing. They saw the same thing. They're telling totally inconsistent stories.
Then that's probable cause.
But they're going to dismiss them both. And then they're going to listen to Darren Wilson even more.
But that's probable cause. And I've got to tell you, I read Darren Wilson's testimony last night.
If you don't think it's probable because you don't understand what happened.
Well, that goes to the process. That goes to the fact that this prosecutor...
That wasn't a suggestion of what you guys are saying. I'm just using it as a hypothetical.
That goes to the fact that this prosecutor conducted this grand jury in a way that we've never seen before. He threw every single piece of evidence in front of this grand jury, evidence that would even not be admissible at trial. That is not how you conduct a grand jury process. It was less than transparent.
Why isn't that an error of inclusion? Why is that an error in disclosure? Why isn't that a good thing, in other words?
If you give a finder of fact more evidence than ever and less guidance than ever, what you do is called a data dump. It's a document dump, and you wind up with people unable to make sense of.
You think with all this scrutiny on this guy that
Absolutely.
he would do something like that?
That's in fact what just happened.
Absolutely.
The whole world just saw that.
And there's just no question that this was not a prosecutor seeking an indictment. I've been in front of grand juries, Chris. I've presented cases in front of grand juries. This is not how it is done. You present a streamlined case. You guide the jury. You provide guidance in terms of law. You provide leadership. It is the prosecutor's show. This prosecutor was not seeking an indictment. The other thing I want to mention very quickly,
please.
It was a 92-page sort of testimony from Officer Wilson. I've never read something so fanciful. He described an encounter that I just don't think happened in that way.
Wouldn't work in Hollywood.
For the first time,
well, it worked on the grand jury, though.
For the first time, he said that Michael Brown, in broad daylight, was reaching into his waistband. He said that Michael Brown was so strong, it was like a 5-year-old against Hulk Hogan. Remember, Officer Wilson's 6'4", over 200 pounds. This is not a tiny guy. This is not a small guy. This was supposed to be a trained police officer.
The grand jury believed it. It's not like just the prosecutor believed it.
But we don't know what the grand jury believed because we don't know the vote. We haven't heard from the grand jurors, and we're not going to. And that goes to show you that this prosecutor knew that this process was not going to be as transparent as he claimed it was.
Final word on this, and I want to ask Don about tonight.
Good. Well, listen, if the prosecutor doesn't prosecute, it's impossible to get an indictment. And what you have is a prosecutor who was not prosecuting. He didn't say, listen, I went in there, I tried to get manslaughter, I couldn't get it. He didn't say, I went in there, I tried to get jaywalking, I couldn't get it. He didn't try to get anything, and therefore he did not get anything.
Do you feel that you know that?
I feel very, very certain that given the conduct of this prosecutor...
Because that's not what he says.
Listen, I'm an attorney. She's an attorney. I'm telling you, I've seen cases like this a million times.
But
I've never seen this
out
kind of
last
stuff.
night. He said exactly the opposite. He's like, we did everything.
And you know what he said?
It was intellectually dishonest.
It was intellectually dishonest. And the people of Ferguson are very wise. I'm not talking about the looters. I'm talking about the vast majority of people of Ferguson. They said from the beginning, this guy can't be trusted to do a good job. Please, Governor, send in someone we can trust. The governor stood down, refused to send in a special prosecutor, and we got exactly what the people of Ferguson said we were going to do.
A lack of leadership all around.
So that let the lawyers handle the legal part. Here's
what we need to worry about most right now. The changes that need to happen in this community, and many communities like this one, ain't going to happen today. But we are going to have day goes in tonight, and we're going to have to worry about another situation. Do you think that they can get their act together and figure out how to do it better tonight?
Well, I think they're going to have to. There's no question they're going to have to. And again, I don't disagree with what Van said. I don't think, though, that we saw the vast majority of the good people of Ferguson on the streets last night. That's not what we saw play out.
Well, certainly the situation brought out the worst
of
everyone. So here's the thing. Thanksgiving's two days away. We got to start thinking about our blessings, not to be Pollyannish, but to be pragmatic about how to be better going forward.
Let me say something about
Yes, go ahead.
To the young people in Ferguson who are trying to do the right thing. You're not wrong to care about your neighbor.
Absolutely
you're not wrong to try to organize for positive change. And you're not wrong to feel hurt and sad. You can show more leadership today by saying, listen, this is not how we want to show ourselves to the world. It's disrespectful to the Mike Brown family to do this again. The young people now can step up where the older generation has failed, and I beg them
to do. You're right, but that's not what we saw last night. Those are the people we saw last night.
Be the change you want to see. Sonny, you know what we need?
People we saw last night.
Thanksgiving's 2 days away. Hug it out.
We love each other. We talk about this all the time.
Back to you in New York.
Okay, Chris, it's been wonderful to see you reporting out.